gummy bear.
Hey everybody, welcome to Game Mess Mornings with me, Jeff Grubb, your host from giantbomb.com. Thank you for tuning in. In this episode, we're going to be talking about more problems for Marathon, and the Dead Speak is now a feature in Fortnite. It's going to be a good one because we have Lex Luddy on the show. Lexi, how are you doing?
I'm not doing too bad, Grubb. I literally launched a website 1 hour ago.
Yes, you did.
So...
And all smooth, right? No problems?
Oh, yeah, totally. Patreon didn't take down our Patreon page at all 5 minutes before launch.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so I just launched rewinder.co.uk with Henry Stockdale and Scott McRae. Scott McRae has been on the show before.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna try to run a site that is writing about stuff that we care about in an interesting and in-depth way. And we are going to have a Patreon page, and we are planning on getting other freelancers on and involved. But that Patreon page was taken down 5 minutes before we went live, probably because I signed into it from Ireland. And Henry is in the UK, and they were like, look at these illegal people doing illegal things. So that Patreon's going to come next week, hopefully, and I'll be pestering you again to be on the show to promote that then. But until then, go check out some of the articles. I wrote a piece about the state of the industry that people seem to like. Grubb, you're quoted in that.
Check it out.
From
where can
panel.
people find all this now? Like, remind them?
Rewinder.co.uk, which is not to be confused with the video game that just got announced, Rewinder 2.
No, this is the OG.
Yeah, which was a very early bit of us being like, God damn it, we thought we found a good fucking name.
There's none left.
Yeah, and then I also reviewed Big Rigs, Over the Road Racing on Steam. Because, you know...
Well, yeah, I mean, you got to start somewhere, and why not start with the best? I mean, it's all downhill from here.
You're totally right. We did have a very serious conversation in our Discord of like, okay, so like, what's the lowest score we can give? Is it 1 or 0? And I was trying to figure out, like, if we give it a 0, will, like, Metacritic, like, not accept us? Like, does Metacritic even accept zeros? So...
Can it calculate it even? Who knows? It's ancient math over there, yeah.
So we went with a 1.
Okay.
That game is worse than before. They made it worse when they brought it over to Steam.
This is the re-release, right? Okay, the Steam re-release.
Yes.
It's not is it even a remaster? It's just they're just releasing that game, right?
Yes and no. There are parts of it that seem to operate differently, which indicates that they have gone in and tried to fix some things.
Throw a grenade in there, just so that we'll see what happens. Can't get any worse.
So, like, famously, the AI cars didn't move at all in that game. Now, occasionally, when a race starts, they'll move forward for a bit and then just kind of careen off the road. So it seems like there was some attempt made to, like, add AI back into it, and then they just fucking gave up.
This is Big Rigs over the road racing, for people wondering, a Alex Navarro classic.
Yeah, they also managed to make it so that if you have your text size set at Windows level, that's the size that the window of the game opens in. So
incredible.
Yeah, Windows level, that's the size that the window of the game. Yeah, so 125. The game opened, it was 125% zoomed in, and I literally couldn't hit the start race button because that was in the bottom right hand corner and it was cut off. So that was a fun 2 hours of troubleshooting of trying to figure out how to open this in windowed mode, which you can't. And then it has a DLC pack. And do you want to know what's in the DLC pack?
I hope it's just a hat.
Nothing.
Just give us more money.
No, it's a free DLC pack, but I think they wanted to say, like, oh, there's new content, and all that's in the web page for the pack is like, oh, here's some AI-generated images of a Lamborghini and shit. But none of that's in the game.
Rules.
You can't access those JPEGs in the game. There's nothing added to the game. It's just, like, it. And the thing that depresses me about it is it's, like, mostly positive on Steam because people are buying it and reviewing it as like, lol, this is the worst game ever. But like, they didn't even preserve it. They didn't. They made it different they made it worse in different ways. They fucked it up. Like, if you are gonna try to re-release one of the worst games ever made, release it authentically. Like, put out the version of it.
Let me ask: is this a game that can be beaten? Can like you get to the credits of big rigs over the road racing?
Um, yes and no. You can complete most races. However, if you click on the final racetrack, that will instantly crash the game.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's no way to complete all the races.
All right. So maybe you have to be sort of flexible if we were to put this on Blight Club or something. So all right, we'll
Yes, it
figure
would
that
have
out.
to be a leisurely stroll through, the wonders of big rigs rather than a thorough scientific examination.
Right, a demonstration instead of
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
trying to beat it. Okay, fair enough. Let's explain what we do here most weekdays. I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS feed on giantbomb.com. Speaking of Giant Bomb, go to giantbomb.com/join. That gets you a membership if you go ahead and sign up there, which gets you ad-free shows and some other benefits. We're going to be adding more to that constantly, but a big part of it is it supports us and what we're doing over here. And we're going to keep things going for as long as we can get support. So if you want to see more of this, if you like what you see here, giantbomb.com/join. That's also where you could find the ad-free RSS feed. Get that over there on the website. You can also catch this show later on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, so let's start the morning mess with Grand Theft Auto 6. Usually if there's any reason to talk about it, put it at the top here. It's still kind of the biggest game looming over everything. And now Take-Two has had its earnings report, and so Strauss Zelnick, the CEO of Take-Two, had an opportunity to sort of explain a little bit more about the delay. This is from Blair Marnell at GameSpot. Prior to this month, Take-Two Interactive CEO Strauss Zelnick assured investors that Rockstar's Grand Theft Auto 6 was on track for a 2025 debut, while also acknowledging the possibility of a delay. However, the game was pushed back to a May 2026 release earlier this month. Now, Zelnick has shared his reaction to GTA 6 delay after offering an explanation. While speaking with IGN, Zelnick noted that GTA 6 needed the extra time for the developers to polish the title and turn it into the game that fans want it to be. As we get closer to completion of a title that's seeking perfection, the needs or lack thereof for continued polish become clear. In this case, there was an opportunity with a small amount of incremental time, we thought, to make sure Rockstar Games achieves its creative vision with no limitations. And I supported that approach, of course. Lexi, I mean, what else is he going to say? This is kind of the whole, let's say, the reason we need more time is because we're going to make this more perfect than perfect. Of course, but how are you feeling about GTA 6 and its ability to sort of hit this very high mark that it's not just setting for itself, but that fans, of course, are going to be expecting from this game after waiting so long, right?
Yeah, I think obviously I'm put at ease now that a person who has appeared on the cover of Men's Health magazine has told me it's going to be good.
It wasn't wearing a shirt, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, he should have to deliver all of his earnings reports shirtless.
I think so. He probably does.
He probably does. They don't have video for most of those. They're just calls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm at a weird place where GTA 6 where I'm very curious about it. I'm actually writing a piece for my new website about GTA tones and Rockstar tones and kind of their move away from the very cynical stories that they had been telling. And why I don't think that worked for GTA 5 when they were still being very cynical, and why it did work for Red Dead Redemption 2 when that game got a bit more, I don't know, less shitty. And my hopes for the tone of the story of GTA 6 and what that actually will end up being. I think it has a way more compelling setup than GTA 5.
Sure.
I've said it to a few people, but I think GTA 5's story is only interesting if you look at Trevor and Michael as antagonists to Franklin.
Mm-hmm.
And otherwise it becomes this really shitty thing of me trying to play as these assholes and going, I don't like these guys. I don't want to be these guys. And yeah, I'm curious how it turns out. It obviously looks incredible. They Digital Foundry put out their thing being like, this seems fucking wild.
It seems
Um,
wild.
yeah, and obviously, if it has Stephen Root, it's going to be the best game ever released because
That's how it
he was in
goes.
Barry. He was in Barry.
Yep.
Do other video games have any actors from Barry in them?
None that matter for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's so many things to consider here, and so many unanswered questions in terms of what you're talking about regarding how they try to present a Grand Theft Auto in 2020, now 2026. And how that's probably it's going to have to be different necessarily from the GTA 5 and all of its predecessors. It does feel like it's kind of been trending this direction of not prestige TV presentation, but like something closer to that. Like, hey, we take this very seriously, and we're gonna tell the story, and then our humor will be the kind of the humor we've always had, but it'll be toned down over here to the side, and that's the sense I get from this a little bit, where it's like, hey, yeah, there's still ammunition, and we have a commercial for that. But the rest of the humor will be, hey, we are lampooning the Florida man thing, and yeah, I don't know how
Yeah.
well that's going to go over in 2026. It feels like that is a well trodden territory at this point.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I think even in GTA 5, it had kind of gone to the point where it was like this very neoliberal looking down your nose at other people are like, oh, these fucking conservatives. And it's like, I know it gave me the vibes of like the worst era of like not the Daily Show, but stuff like the Daily Show, where it was just like talking about how terrible Republicans were and how stupid they were, and then accidentally just like distracting everybody from all the evil shit they were doing for years. And like, I don't think that flies in 2026. I don't think you can really have that be your main source of comedy and writing in a game. So like, I'm super, and like, that team has seen a huge change in who's in charge and how it operates. People who had been at the king or at the helm of that thing went off and did their own things. They're doing Build a Rocket Boy, and they're just no longer at the company. So I'm very curious to see. I hope this game is good because it seems like they're making it in a much healthier environment.
Yeah, that's something.
And I want it to succeed for that reason alone, purely to prove that it can be done. Because the old Rockstar way, like, you still hear horror stories in and around the UK games media. Things will come up of people who have worked there and people who have things to say about it, of like, that's the real shit. That was the real fucking shit, being there for like GTA 5 and Red Dead 2. So I do hope it works out.
When Zelnick says, this game's being developed with no limitations, I mean, you know what? It looks that way. When visually it looks that way. Like there was never a moment where someone said we can't do that because whatever technical reason or financial reason. Everyone's focusing on the realistic fizzing of beer that's getting poured and things like that. Do you think that? Do you really think that there's something here where it's like they really have spent all 10 years doing every crazy idea they possibly could for GTA 6, or do you think it's like, no, it'll actually be more focused than that?
I know, it's kind of hard to tell because, like, we've never really gotten a good vibe of how many people were working on stuff like GTA Online. You know,
we have no idea.
And, and from what I gather, Red Dead Redemption 2 was basically all of Rockstar, like all of the different studios across the world on Rockstar. So it's not like since GTA 5 ended, they were only working on this. They very clearly were working on Red Dead Redemption 2 first and foremost, and that was the company's focus, and that was the focus across all of their studios. So, I think realistically this game is closer to like 8 years of development, which is still buck wild. But yeah, I hope it's a more focused thing. I hope they hone in on something and they go for it. Because like ultimately, this is going to be the biggest media event in history, most likely. It would be fucking cool if the biggest media event in history was interesting and told an interesting story and tackled interesting topics. It's kind of like the Andor thing of like, yeah, I agree with people who are boycotting it, and you can definitely go and get your media through ways without giving Disney money. But also, there's something interesting to the fact that like one of the biggest media properties in the world right now, one of the most homogenous ones in the world right now, is telling a really, really like thoughtful, harsh story about the rise of fascism and how it happens.
Yep.
So I think there's an element of that to it where if they can hone in on stuff that like does come up a lot if you live in the American South of migration and, you know, being a minority in those areas and even like being a couple of mixed race in those areas, like, yeah, that could be interesting if they actually have the teeth for it and they have the stomach for it and they tackle those topics.
Yep. I think that, you know, every Rockstar game seems to strive for some degree of being controversial, and I think that if they could find a way to do it by through their writing and challenging ideas, it would be surprising, but in the exact way that I think Rockstar would want to be. But you know, who knows what they're really going to be able to pull off here. I imagine though, it'll be so big that no matter what, even if it's controversial, like everyone's going to play it. So that's sort of one of the benefits and superpowers that this game's going to have. All right, let's move along here. Bungie responds to marathon art theft claims. This is from Sherry Volkner, or I should say Sherry Volkner at GameSpot, I believe. Bungie has admitted to finding stolen art assets in its upcoming extraction shooter Marathon. Graphic artist Anti-Real has taken to Twitter to claim that Bungie used their poster designs from 2017 without compensation or credit. Bungie admits the claims and says it will undertake a complete review of the game's assets. Anti-Real posted to Twitter on May 15th claiming that the Marathon Alpha released recently and its environments are covered with assets lifted from poster designs I made in 2017. They tagged both Bungie and Marathon's franchise art director, Joseph Cross. They continued, Bungie is, of course, not obligated to hire me when making a game that draws overwhelmingly from the same design language I have refined for the last decade, but clearly my work was good enough to pillage for ideas and plaster all over their game without pay or attribution. This is mostly strange because it's happened before. Destiny
like,
had some plagiarized art, right?
Yeah, the big thing, like, when I first saw this headline, sometimes when you see stuff like, oh, art theft, there's an element to, like, oh, well, you know, art is art, everyone draws from the same inspirations.
Right, yeah,
like,
for sure. I'm very sympathetic to that.
Yeah, you look at the examples and, like, it's very clear that someone just took elements of this person's art into Photoshop and then and used it. I think you talked about it on Game Mess Decides last night, but like the smoking gun to all of this is that there is a reference to Control Alt Delete in it.
Yeah, the Lost comic, yeah.
Yeah, that nobody noticed for like 4 years or something, and then the person posted on their Discord being like, hey, no one noticed this. And that was back in 2024. And then if you go into the game itself, that reference is there in a piece of artwork that's on like a wall or something. And yeah, this happened back in 2024 with Destiny 2, right? And like, there's clearly something wrong with the systems because, you know, if you have an art department and you are looking for inspirations, how does that go from we're looking for inspirations, which is a very common thing, we're creating mood boards, we're doing this and that, we're, you know, putting up a poster of all of our inspirations, which like
here's my Pinterest,
yeah, like you and me have created logos for new things recently, and we both probably did the same thing, which was send Jerome a bunch of art that we liked and be like, go nuts.
Exactly.
And now it seems like whatever happened there was they were clearly just doing more than just looking at the art and creating something from there. They were taking the art itself, and like, it's bad. They're a fucking huge company. One, everyone involved should know better, and two, they should have like safeguards in place to make sure this doesn't happen.
Yeah. So they said they're going to look at all the procedures. They said that they, you know, I don't know if they believe or they're just flat out saying that this was due to a former artist that used to work at Bungie, so they have someone to throw under the bus a little bit. I wonder if it's the same artist that did what happened with Destiny 2. Maybe that makes some sense. Although, why didn't you vet everything that person worked on? So maybe that's not the case. I'm just kind of speculating at that point. But yeah, they're promising to also do right by the artists, whatever that means. They said they reached out to Anti-Real to discuss the matter and said, "We are committed to do right by the artist as a matter of policy. We do not use the work of artists without their permission." Well, until you do. The developer also confirms that to prevent similar issues happening again, it will conduct a thorough review of game assets. So we'll see where that lands. But yeah,
it's the last thing this game needs.
Yes, exactly. I could see how this happens, but Marathon needs all the favors it can get right now. And the only reason it's showing up in the news is for something like this. In the meantime, everyone's kind of looking around being like, give me an excuse not to want to try Marathon. That's what feels like is happening right now. People just seem like they don't want to like it. And not that I blame anyone. I also want to have more of my time back. So if I have an excuse not to play something, I will also take it. But Marathon is in that zone, and they need to get it elsewhere. They need to get in the hype levels constantly building zone, and that seems far away for that game. So yeah, I don't know how they sort of right this ship and kind of get people back over to talking about the game because they're excited because the shooting feels good. But they got to get to work on that for sure.
And it's a shame because, boy, that cinematic trailer that they made, that thing fucking goes hard. That thing is incredible. And it's like, guys, if you just made a Halo-style single-player story with this tone and this vibe and these storytelling elements, that would be so fucking interesting. And you could build from that. You could build a universe around that. But instead, it is the multiplayer game is the first thing that happens. And I think that they've just made a bad bet on genre of this isn't the genre that people are going to latch onto. It's super unfortunate because Bungie has some really talented people there. There's some nobody makes a gun shooting sound quite like Bungie sound designers do. And yeah, I wish that this game was in a different genre and had a different story to tell around it.
All right, we got more headlines to get to, but before we do that, we're going to take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. If you want to have the ad-free version, go over to giantbomb.com/join, and you can get the RSS feed there. The video version that is ad-free, but you didn't do that, so here is our sponsor. This episode of Giant Bomb is brought to you by Kind of Funny. When we said we were going independent, Kind of Funny was the first group in our inbox because they believe in and want to support independent media, because that's what they are. For more than a decade, Kind of Funny's been making YouTube videos and podcasts about video game reviews, previews, and news, but they also review and rank Marvel movies, Alien vs. Predator movies, and just about every other film franchise you can think of. Kind of Funny is an independent, 11-person talk show network that's live Monday through Friday, starting at 10 a.m. Pacific time. The day starts with Kind of Funny Games Daily, leading into the Kind of Funny Games Cast, usually giving you a rotating podcast like their weekly The Last of Us and Andor spoiler cast. And then later, they stream a game. If you like Giant Bomb, chances are there's a Kind of Funny show that you'll like as well. Check out their full slate of programming on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames, twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames, and podcast services around the globe. Then subscribe on whatever platform works best for you. Just like Giant Bomb, Kind of Funny only exists because of support from their audience. So give them a chance, whether it's your first listen or your first time in 10 years.
Grub, sometimes when a media outlet goes independent, it sells out to bigger media outlets.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just really sad to me.
It's one of the shames of the industry for sure.
I'm kind of disappointed in you guys, but is
Look,
what it is.
we just got to make ends meet. Not all of us can have the scruples and the ethics of Lex Luddy. All right, some of us need to scrape by. That was very good. I guess for audio listeners, Lexi's decked out in a million Giant Bomb pieces of gear, which thank you. Hey, store.giantbomb.com. I can never remember that URL. I think that's right. Jan, correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, that's it. Okay, yeah, URL, or I was going to say URL at giantbomb.com. That's nothing. Store.giantbomb.com. There will be some more stuff in there pretty soon as we continue to get more of the keys to the palace over here. All right, next story. As we continue over here on Game Mess Mornings with me, Jeff Grubb, and Lex Slutty. Fortnite now lets you speak to Darth Vader with AI-generated voice of James Earl Jones, because we are in hell. This is from Jason Finelli at GameSpot. Fortnite's Star Wars-themed Galactic Battle event has been running since the beginning of the month, letting Star Wars and Fortnite fans alike live out their dreams of becoming a daring spacefarer in Disney's massive sci-fi universe. Today, the event has brought back one of Star Wars' most famous villains, but with a twist. Players can directly speak to him with the AI-generated voice of James Earl Jones, providing responses in real time. Vader has replaced the Samurai Darth Vader variant on the map, specifically at Vader Samurai's Solitude location. I guess we don't need the tips and tricks portion of this story. Hey, yeah, what the fuck? I hate this. I guess James Earl Jones definitely had an agreement. He's now passed away, but he made an agreement with Disney for them to continue using his voice. I didn't love that because, for one thing, it's like Disney should maybe put Darth Vader on the shelf for a long time and not like worry about how can we mine this person's iconic voice that we've now paid for to make stuff. It's like, okay, that seems like a poor motivation. And also, I just don't know how I feel about that in general. Although it's James Earl Jones's voice, he's allowed to decide to do that for himself. That said, I think he was thinking that stuff would get used in film and used by artists that he had respect for or would have respected. The idea of enabling us to treat it like a magic 8-ball that we're talking to in Fortnite, just so we can ask questions so while we're goofing off with our friends, feels super disrespectful. And not everyone has to agree with how I feel about it. It's how I feel about it, but I hate it. I hate this a lot.
Yeah. Also, apparently, they've had to just patch out cursing because people were making him curse.
Hell yeah.
So that's great. There's a bit in here in the story that you have. It's the statement from his family. That might be worth reading out.
Yeah, let's see here. Okay, let's see. The statement reads: We hope that this collaboration with Fortnite will allow both longtime fans of Darth Vader and newer generations to share in the enjoyment of this iconic character. Yeah, I mean, the estate wants to get paid, and that's fair. Whatever.
This feels bad. This, along with like Tim Sweeney being in Qatar this week, not a great look. For that company in a lot of ways. A lot of their petulance recently has rubbed people the wrong way. I think also their need to portray themselves as the good guys in the Apple court case is like pretty fucking tiresome. And yeah, I don't have much time for Epic these days. I don't have much time or much interest in anything that Epic does these days. Because, like, as much as I think that, like, Fortnite is fun and dumb in a way that only Alien hitting the gritty can be fun and dumb.
Yeah.
Every now and again, I hear one of these stories, I'm like, man, I fucking hate all of this. Fuck this.
Yeah. I mean, it is, like, for all Fortnite's qualities, I think the McDonald's analogy, the Happy Meal analogy is completely apt. And this is, like, getting a toy that uses James Earl Jones's voice in a Happy Meal, and it's like that's what we're doing with this thing, with this man who meant so much to so many people and was iconic in all these ways. We're reducing him to this. I guess at a certain point, whatever. But I think this is just not the best way to use this tech, and it feels like we have had endless time now of people who are in charge of these technologies using them to replace things they don't understand, like social media trying to replace community, and from a bunch of nerds who don't understand community and the importance of human relationships. And this feels like someone who doesn't understand how people feel about people dying, being like, "Hey, you can still talk to that guy. Is that what you wanted? Does that make you not sad anymore?" It's like, Tim, no, that's not how it works. In fact, this makes me more sad. Do you understand that? No? Okay.
Sometimes I'm worried that, like, Black Mirror is too subtle.
Yes.
And, like, sometimes you look at Charlie Brooker and you're like, dude, you need to remind them that, like, this is bad. You need to have a disclaimer at the start of the episode that's like, no, dog, remember that this isn't the goal.
Yep, the Torment Nexus is not this great idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's see here. Next story. Here's a block of Nintendo news. Let's start here with this one. Nintendo says it's committed to make Switch 2 as obtainable as possible amidst tariffs. This is from Sophie McAvoy at GamesIndustry.biz. Basically, they continue to do some interviews here and there. Doug Bowser's now come out and kind of, reiterated some positions for Nintendo. This being one of them, that they are very committed to make sure there's a plentiful supply. And I think we are on the other side of most of that first day one demand. I'm sure there are some people out there that still have not been able to secure their Switch 2s, but now lots of reports that like Best Buy will have a handful at each store around midnight, or at least some stores. So plenty more chances to get it. I know people in Europe seem like they keep seeing supply get replenished every couple of days or something like that. So
I got
yeah,
I got
go
an
ahead.
email from a local toy store being like, we have more Switch 2s coming in. So they're definitely sending out more waves of them, or at least allocating more waves of them to different places.
So for as odd as this launch has been, and things have gone wrong for sure, and Nintendo's been quiet about some details because it seems like they don't want to give definitive answers on all kinds of stuff, and so they've had to correct the record a couple times. Somehow it still feels like a kind of a pretty smooth launch to me. Like relatively speaking to other systems where it's like if you can meet the demand for something that has demand as high as this, that's actually pretty impressive. And I think they just kind of stacked the deck in their favor, right? By waiting a couple years to actually release this thing when it was probably ready in 2023 or something like that. And even that like last delay from internally from 2025 now to the middle of 2026, they probably have just been making them nonstop since then and have warehouses full of these things. And it really does feel like they're ready to go. Do you get that sense?
Yeah, I think the thing that's going to be interesting for me is how this launch plays out for third parties.
Yeah.
Because the Switch 1 wound up being such a gold mine for the things that hit it big. It was, this almost empty store that had a couple of games on it, and if you were one of the couple of games in the early couple of few weeks, you could do really, really well. The position that third parties are in for this console is basically the inverse of that. They're in a already super cluttered store. They aren't getting review codes sent out because Nintendo isn't sending out review console units. So if I were like a Sega or Square or Capcom who all have launch games, or CD Projekt Red, I'd be like a little bit fucking pissed at Nintendo for not being a great partner around this launch, because ultimately everyone's going to be rushing to make content about Mario and the Nintendo games at launch. They're not going to be rushing to make content about Yakuza 0 Director's Cut.
That'd be like the second or third wave, like right after we get done like squeezing all the juice out of Mario Kart and the hardware itself. It'd be like, oh, people are probably going to wonder like which of these third-party games are worth it. Like that's when we get to it. So it's a follow-up question, and now we're not going to have time for follow-up questions.
Yeah, from an editorial point of view, I've been told many times with reviews I've done this year, like, unless we have it ready for the embargo, for, like, the day before it releases or the day it releases, it is not worth running a review anymore. 2 days late is no longer worth running a review because you're just not going to make your money back on it. So, like, there's a bunch of these games, like, I am willing to bet stuff like Bravely Default Remastered, Yakuza 0, and Kunitsugami, all of which are kind of like remakes in different ways, are just not going to get that many reviews. And are not going to get that much coverage at all, because it won't be worth it for media outlets, and then that's going to have a knock-on effect for whether it be the sales or the public perception of these games. So yeah, I'd be super curious to talk to like some third parties about how they feel about the launch of the Switch, because it really feels like Nintendo has stacked the deck, but specifically only for them. They're focused on like, no, we come first, buddy. You are our business partners, but you are very clearly number 2 in this relationship.
Yeah, I mean, just between you're right, that and them not getting the help from early press coverage, or the game cards only being available in 64 gigabyte versions, which are very expensive, so forcing a lot of developers to go with game key cards, which seems to be angering a lot of fans who buy physical games. So yeah, there's a lot of reasons why this has been challenging for third party, and yet This next story, and Jan, I put it a little bit out of order, so the next one I'm going to go to is Red Dead Redemption 2 for Nintendo Switch 2 may arrive this year. This is from David Caballero. Earlier this year, in the midst of a flurry of Nintendo Switch 2 leaks just before its official reveal video, publications such as Game Reactor heard the inevitable rumors about the first Nintendo and third-party games that would accompany the console. They heard about Cyberpunk, Split Fiction, Final Fantasy VII, and Elden Ring. Titles finally confirmed at the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct presentation in April. But there was one big rumored game that we'd heard of and who yet missed the party: Red Dead Redemption 2. It's happened again. Game Reactor has heard from sources close to Rockstar that the acclaimed Wild West open world opus, considered one of the best games ever by some people, is not only on its way to Nintendo Switch 2, but could be coming to the new console as soon as later this year. At this point, I feel like there's a lot of third parties who are going to try a lot of stuff on the Switch 2 in this first year because they're going to want to see what can work. So I think Red Dead Redemption 2 makes sense. This is alongside a rumor recently that Grand Theft Auto 4 might also come to the Switch 2 in some sort of, lightly remastered form. I think both those games could work very well on there. And I think even Rockstar's like, let's test the waters for maybe eventually seeing if they can get Grand Theft Auto 6 to work on this thing. That feels like in the cards, although technologically, I think it might be very impossible, but we'll see. Third parties are going to show up here, but it does feel like Nintendo's treating them as an afterthought. Do you think the people who pick up a Switch 2 will treat third-party games like this or much smaller games as an afterthought?
I don't think they'll treat them as an afterthought, but you can't deny that, it does have a bit of a knock-on effect. People buy a Nintendo console for Nintendo stuff first and foremost, and then if this other stuff is treated as less important, I do think that's going to get internalized. And, it's interesting. I think it was like Dave Lang said on a Bombcast once, you never throw your business partner under the bus. Yep. And that's extra true with Nintendo. They could fuck you over to the nth degree, and you're not going to say a bad word about them because they're Nintendo, and you got to keep that relationship clean. And yeah, I think Red Dead Redemption 2 makes a lot of sense. That first Red Dead Redemption release on Switch 1 was constantly in the bestsellers. So of course they'd do this. And also it is one of the best games ever made. And it is much better than the first game. The first game is one of the worst Rockstar games. It's real bad.
I prefer it. I prefer it to 2. 2's, but hey, I've gone over my opinions on 2 enough. But yeah, I don't know. You don't like Red Dead Redemption 1? That's actually surprising at this point. I've never heard nothing but people who love that game.
I went back to it this year, and it's the pinnacle of the Rockstar cynicism problem of you play as John Marston, who's meant to be this guy who is a good man and is trying to help his family. And then he just works with a bunch of racists and necrophiliacs and assholes. And the whole time I'm I just want to shoot these motherfuckers. I would not be working with these people. And then in the end, those people don't really get punished in any way. So it's just actually, yeah, you were good to work. You working with them was the right choice. And it's I don't want to work with the fucking awful fucking Pinkerton guys and then have them get away scot-free. That doesn't feel good.
Yeah, I would say that the writing is more mature in Red Dead Redemption 2 for sure. I think it's fun to move in Red Dead Redemption 1 though. So that's what works for me. All right, let's keep going here. Nintendo apologized. Oh, yeah, that's right. Nintendo apologizes for error with mention of Switch 2 VRR TV support. This is from Liam Doolin at Nintendo Life. We've finally got some clarity within a statement from Nintendo on this. The information about variable refresh rate support originally published on the Switch 2 site was incorrect, and VRR is handheld only. That's variable refresh rate for people who are wondering. Basically, G-Sync. Yes, and the generic term for that is variable refresh rate. What it really means is the TV can refresh at a variable rate so that it can kind of exactly match the output of your device, like your GPU or your console. And so as a frame is ready, the TV can accept it right in that moment and display it immediately. So there's no screen tearing or the juddering effect of a ramping frame rate, which can be the worst part about something not running at a solid 60 or a solid 30, is when it changes a lot and that feels bad. This eliminates most of the issues with that. And so it's a popular feature with people who really kind of want to get the most out of their hardware and their television or their display. And it seems like the Switch 2 will not support it, at least at launch. So they were asked, hey, will VRR for docked mode come in a firmware update at some point in the future? And Nintendo said, we have nothing to announce on this topic. To me, that says probably, because that is how it worked with, I think, even PS5. I think PS5 did not have VRR ready to go at launch, and it took a year or two, maybe longer. It took quite a while for them to put out an update that supported VRR on PS5. In the meantime, though, you'll be able to get it in handheld mode, which is going to probably help to make that picture look even better on that screen, which by all accounts sounds very good.
And like this is the same company that patched in Bluetooth support after swearing there was no Bluetooth support in the Switch one.
Yeah, and Bluetooth is such a weird one because it's like the delay is bad, and so they're like, yeah, I mean, it's in there, but you shouldn't use it. And there's no good solution to actually make it pretty decent in terms of that delay. So it's like you have to just accept the delay. So I always like kind of understood where they were coming from with the Bluetooth thing. This one just feels like it's not ready, and they're gonna just put it in a firmware update later. That said, are you someone like that does try to get the most out of your TV? Make sure you have like the HDMI 2.1 cable connected between all the devices, so you get Dolby Vision and all the other features, or is it like whatever? Once it's working, it's working.
Like I would like to be, but ultimately the TV that I have, I bought like 2019, right before the pandemic,
right.
And I think it has a maximum refresh rate of 100 hertz. Which is a weird standard that I've never seen anywhere else. So it can't support like VR or 120 frames per second stuff, which is like kind of a pain. I feel like I got fucked over on that one a little bit, but like it's nice when consoles do support stuff like that. And I think it's becoming more accepted and more understood. So yeah, if Switch is able to do that eventually, that would be nice.
Yeah, great is the world in chat is saying what I was thinking. It's like you got the double PAL frame rate. Like somehow you have the HD PAL format, the one TV that supports that. The secret standard only for you. All right, going along here, more Nintendo news. Nintendo has detailed the free Switch 2 updates coming to 12 games. We've heard about these 12 games getting free updates before, but now this is like saying what's going to happen to those games. I do have like a little bit of a concern about two of them, but let's start here. Chris Scullion at VGC. Nintendo has detailed the free Switch 2 updates coming to the 12 existing Nintendo Switch 1 games. These are free updates to games like 51 Worldwide Classics, the Clubhouse Games game, ARMS, Big Brain Academy, things like that. For 51 Worldwide Clubhouse games, it's getting game share support. So up to 4 people can play 34 games shared locally or shared online via game chat. So that's pretty neat. ARMS is getting visual improvements and frame rate. I know the ARMS crazies are going to come out into the streets and celebrate because it's now also getting HDR support. But everything's kind of just getting like spruced up or some version of game share. And then The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom and The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. What do you think about those games? Like when I bring those up, what comes to mind first? Because for me, it's frame rate. Yeah. They don't mention frame rate on either of these games. Here's what they say. And I think it's the same for both. Yes. Okay. Visuals, optimized for the Nintendo Switch 2 displays in high resolution TVs for improved image quality and then HDR support. And other games do mention improved frame rate. So I'm a little bit worried that these games, for some reason, just can't be improved. And even on the Switch 2, they won't run any smoother. Now, I think what might be happening here, Lexi, is the games that have like the frame rate improvement, maybe they are getting like the full like treatment of, oh, this game used to be locked at 30 and now it can do 60. Or maybe if it's like it ran at 60 and now it can go unlocked 120 frames per second because that's something the Switch 2 can support. So maybe what's happening with these 2D or top-down Zelda games is that they are getting like improvements, but they're subtle, and it's not like, oh, we are improving this game from 60 to 120. It's just like that frame rate it was at before will be smoothed out by naturally moving it to the Switch 2. I hope that's the case, and I think it probably will be. What do you think?
Yeah, I think what some people were kind of speculating on Blue Sky was that both of these games ran at uncapped frame rates.
Uncapped frame rates, yes.
So if depending on how the emulation and all of that works on the Switch 2, if that Switch 1 emulator is able to tap into the extra power of the Switch 2, then it would presumably just run smoother, and it would have less dips. Again, that game had more performance problems than just the frame rate being uncapped. There was also a lot of like stutter and things like that. And it might also just be a thing of like Grezzo are like a bit more removed from Nintendo than some of these other first-party developers. And they either might be slower on the uptick and they'll get to this in a few months' time, or they just might not be doing it. They might just be focusing on whatever their next thing is.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, Grezzo is a contracted studio, right? Nintendo doesn't own them. So it probably is a matter of, hey, we need you to do extra work for this game you made for us. And even that could just be a managerial situation where that's causing problems. I'm hopeful, though. I've kind of gone back and forth on getting my hopes up in regards to games that have unlocked frame rates, just getting natural improvements from running on better hardware. Because it's like a lot of that is going to depend on how the emulation works, and we just don't know it in this moment. But for something like this, I kind of shift back. I'm like, I'm going to get my hopes up and just hope that it runs smoother, because I really like both of those games and would love to see them improved visually in that way.
I also meant to say, I was cheering for ARMS, but fun fact, my cousin is one of the top-rated ARMS players in the world.
Really?
Yeah, which is real weird.
I still, to this day, I mention this every time ARMS comes up. Every time I'm on my Switch, one of Nintendo's PR guys is booting up ARMS. It's like every day.
Hell
every
yeah.
day.
That's awesome.
I know. It's awesome. It rules. All right. Killer Instinct Gold becomes the 39th Nintendo 64 game to be added to Switch Online. Over in Japan, they got Ridge Racer 64, although we already had that here. This is from Chris Scullion at VGC. Killer Instinct Gold is the latest game to be added to N64 on NSO. Despite the name suggesting a special edition of the original game, Killer Instinct Gold is in fact a home port of arcade game Killer Instinct 2. 3 characters from the original game, Chief Thunder, Riptor, and Cinder. Is this the most 90s video game, Killer Instinct?
Oh, yeah.
Like more than like, Mortal Kombat even, right?
Yeah, as a young person, because it's like the 90s has this vibe of like kind of a lot of cheap knockoffs.
Yeah.
And Killer Instinct is the cheap knockoff of Mortal Kombat. So it feels even more like the discount wraparound shades that someone bought that are like fake, designer. It gives off the same vibe as Mike Minardi playing Rascal.
Exactly. So yeah, this is on NSO now. Obviously, the expansion pack version, so the $50 per year version. This is a Rare game, not as in it's hard to find, as in it's made by Rare Limited, the company now owned by Microsoft that's working on Perfect Dark for that company and has been under Microsoft for 25 years now. But Nintendo owns some aspects of these games, not all of them, but Killer Instinct, I think, that went with Microsoft. Obviously, they've made Killer Instinct games since then. So this continues to be the fruit of them making a deal to like bring some of these Rare games over to N64 Online. And yet, 2 months out from Donkey Kong Bonanza coming, Donkey Kong 64 is still not on there. I think Diddy Kong Racing's not on there. So there's a lot of like opportunity to be like, hey, we got a Donkey Kong game coming. Let's celebrate that. And yet, Killer Instinct Gold instead. Do you think we get the DK games?
So genuinely, outside of nostalgia, do you think that anyone would play Donkey Kong 64 and go, I'm ready for another Donkey Kong game? No. Or do you think they'd go, I am less excited now? Like, I think there's outside of irony, because like most people who interact with Nintendo stuff aren't terminally online irony poisoned people like us who go, that's funny, that's the shitty Donkey Kong game, I'll play some of that. Like, if they actually went in there and played it, they'd be like, this is bad. I hope the next one isn't this bad.
I think, yes, I definitely. I'm with you on all that. I think that there is that, portion of the audience that was young enough at the time to be like, to appreciate that game in a way that I could not. Similar to like how the Star Wars prequels work, where it's like they just see what they like about this game, and it would be very nostalgic for them. But if you discount the nostalgia, I don't necessarily think that this helps. But I also don't know if Nintendo thinks about it in those terms. I think for them, it's just like we'll put a Donkey Kong game on NSO as part of the lead up to this thing, and that would be good because then people are thinking about Donkey Kong. And I don't know how much they consider it beyond that. Like, oh, will playing this game, get them excited for Donkey Kong Bonanza? It's like, well, they're 25 years apart in terms of like when they've come out. So no, it's not going to be anything like that game. But yeah, I would not go from Donkey Kong 64 to thinking, man, I cannot wait for something else like this. Yeah.
What do you think your kids' reaction would be if you sat them down in front of DK64 and like just were like, hey kids, I got you a new game. Here's the new Nintendo game. And they started playing Donkey Kong 64. How would they react to that?
I think they would have an okay time running around, and then it would be about 10 minutes. And they'd be like, wait, what am I supposed to be doing? And I'm like, you know what? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. I think the answer is don't do it anymore. The thing you're doing, playing this game, you could just stop and go play something else. Go back to Minecraft, please. All right. Let's see here. Diddy Kong's creator praises Nintendo's sympathetic redesign of the character. Nintendo has also redesigned Diddy Kong after updating Donkey Kong for Bonanza. I think this must mean that Diddy Kong is going to be in Bonanza. Have we seen him there? I don't know.
There's something really funny to me about like the phrasing of sympathetic redesign,
Yes.
the same way that we were talking about like old Rockstar games being cynical. Old Donkey Kong games, they were way too hard edge, and they, Diddy Kong was fucking drunk and he had all this problems.
He's been through the 12-step program now. He's apologized to everyone in his life.
It's a more sympathetic portrayal of the Diddy Kong experience, and it's less problematic, and it reflects modern times of what it's like to be Diddy Kong.
Yeah. People are pointing out he could be updated for both Mario Kart World and Donkey Kong Bonanza. That's probably the case. Either way, the original creator, Kevin Bayless, because this character was created for the Donkey Kong Country games. He basically just said, thank you, Nintendo, for improving your Diddy Kong character and being sympathetic towards my original design. They both now look better than ever. I can now rest in peace. So apparently he's dying and he's going to leave this mortal coil.
Oh, Jesus.
Just waiting for finally, I'm free. But yeah, I think this new Diddy Kong design is really good. I also really like the Donkey Kong one, though, as well.
Speaking of people being able to rest in peace now.
Hideo Kojima reveals he has a USB stick of game ideas for his studio to use after he dies. This is from Jessica Cogswell over at GameSpot. Shout out to Jessica.
Let me just say, last game developer who handed off a USB stick, some shit went down, dude. And
I'm Hideo Kojima, and I've hidden my ideas at a medieval times somewhere in the Midwest. Good luck finding it. Yeah. So basically, it's just like, hey, when I go away from this Earth and go back to my planet, I hope that Kojima Productions can continue. And to help aid in that, I have a USB stick with all of my ideas so they can look at that and make games based on that. Now, I get what he's going for here. But also, just hire people who can also have ideas. That seems like a good idea. Maybe train the next generation to have ideas. That's probably the move.
And this is always the thing that gets me about Kojima Productions is like they're working on 4 games at the moment, and the idea that like Kojima is the guy going in there coding all of them is like the way that they want to portray that he's making all of them. And then you look at his Instagram, and usually what he's doing is he's just playtesting. He just has a controller in his hand, and he's just looking at it and going like, yeah, just tighten up the graphics here on this level.
Level 3. Yeah, exactly. He's 62, so yep. I get it. Yeah. Like you start thinking like, hey, I've known people who've died at this age. So, and then, you're also, he probably feels responsible for that studio. It's his name on it. So the people that work there, he's like, do you guys need ideas? So again, I understand it, but I think it's probably not going to be what actually happens. Kojima dies tomorrow, and I don't think that studio is like, well, where's that USB stick? They probably figure out some other things to make that studio make sense long term. All right, that does it for the headlines. That was a Friday. That's how the news goes sometimes. I'm glad Lexi was here to help me get through it. We do have the poll question. Let me bring that up over here and refresh. Poll question from yesterday. Are you excited about Death Stranding 2? Your options were yes, no, and I'm waiting for reviews. 19% said they're waiting for reviews. 37% said no, they are not excited for Death Stranding 2. And 44% said yes. So game seems to have quite a bit of pent up demand for it. And I think it does seem like Death Stranding 2 is really going to deliver. That's how it goes with a lot of like these sequels for new franchises, new series, right, Lexi, where the first game is like, man, there's something here. And then the second game can just really unlock all that fun. And I think that's going to be the story of Death Stranding 2. What do you expect?
Yeah, I need to finish the first one. I'm in chapter 3, and that game just takes a long time to play, and it can be pretty monotonous if you're trying to get through it. So it's probably the wrong way to experience it. But I'm interested. I'm always interested in what Kojima is doing, even if I don't play the games. All of them, I'm still like, nah, like, the dude has the sauce. He has the special magic of, like, this dude's out of his goddamn mind. And whether it be that he is directing other people underneath him to continue to be out of their goddamn minds, like, they keep on producing stuff that other companies aren't. So, like, yeah, go for it.
We got a new poll question we'll get to in a second, and we're going to have Lex Luddy tell everybody where they can find her on the internet in a moment. But before we do that, Jan, some people in chat were asking, did you have an opinion on those Kingdom Hearts 4 images that they put out to like kind of tell people, hey, it's still coming, don't worry?
Why are his feet so small?
There were small feet. Scary small. I don't like small feet. I want them to be normal size or larger. That's it. All right. Let's see here. Lex Luddy, why don't you tell people where they can find you on the internet and all that good stuff?
Yeah, you can find me at lexluddy-xyz. You can check out the new website that I just started today, rewinder.co.uk. We have the first episode of our podcast out. We have a bunch of articles on the website. We are going to have a Patreon, I promise. You can follow us on Blue Sky at Rewinder. And yeah, I'm super excited for it to get up and running. It's kind of a place that we are hoping will be able to house more freelancers who are struggling to get their work housed in other places at the moment, because there's just no money or budget for more niche ideas that would have previously gone greenlit as features or as reviews or as whatever. So we kind of just want to have conversations that other websites aren't having anymore at the moment. We're going to get a bunch of our friends involved. And yeah, hopefully it will be a good time. And if nothing else, setting up a website has been an experience.
Yep. Yeah, apparently they want to make that difficult in 2025. All right, excellent. Everyone should check out rewinder.co.uk. Go over there right now, in fact, and then when that Patreon goes live, we'll get you back on the show, and you can talk about it again. So people can get all the details for that. All right, new poll question. Are you interested in playing big third-party ports on Switch 2? Like, say, Cyberpunk. Yes, no, and I'm not interested in Switch 2 at all. Those are your options. The poll question is up now on youtube.com/@giantbomb. Go to the community tab there. You can vote. We'll get the results. Talk about it here on Game Mess Mornings on Giant Bomb on Monday. Speaking of Giant Bomb, in a little bit, like 2 hours, 3 hours-ish. I think we said 3 p.m., right? So 3 hours from now, we will be going into UPF, where we're going to probably play some Power Stone and maybe some other stuff from that Capcom Fighting Collection 2, which is out now. I played some Capcom versus SNK 2. Did you know that game's really good? That game's really good. So is Street Fighter Alpha 3, which I had only ever played previously either a little bit in the arcade and then on a Game Boy Advance with 2 face buttons. So
the thing about all those like Capcom games of that era is they're fucking cool. They're cool as shit. Everyone in them is cool. The whole vibe is cool. When Terry Bogard shows up, you're like, fuck yeah, this is awesome. Look at that guy. Those games are cool.
It's cool. It's Mike was saying it's like all these games, it's the arcade versions of all of them, yet they all have a Dreamcast vibe, which to me, I would define primarily as fucking cool. All right, so we'll do that for UPF today. I might also try to, I might have some time, depends on what's going on with some other stuff. Might have a couple more quick looks going up. I know there was one that was recorded yesterday. I might try to get a Despolote one done because I find that game to be very moving and would like to get something up about it on the website But we'll see. If I don't do it today, I'll do it early next week, everybody. So yeah, plenty of quick looks happening. Plenty more happening over at giantbomb.com. You go to giantbomb.com/join to support us, and we'll keep it all going over here. If you're wondering about like new stuff, more stuff, we are in the process of like building the ship that we're all like on before it sinks. And so that's taken up a lot of our time, but we are already planning for like a demo derby. We're planning for like long-term playthrough, like, you know, Monday mornings missed with Mitch, Mike, is something that he's serious about, but that'll be coming up in a couple of weeks. I think, you know, there's some games I want to play through, and I think we'll find some time to make all that stuff happen here very soon. Thank you all for enabling us to do it by going to giantbomb.com/join. The support has been overwhelming. All right. Lex, Luddy, thank you so much for hanging out with me today and talking about video games. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me on, and I wanted to say to both you and Jan, I'm so happy for the both of ye.
Thank you.
Just delight. Better people couldn't be in charge of this site, and this community has really rallied behind you, and that's been like amazing to see. And this website means so much to so many people, so thanks for keeping it going.
Thank you so much, and thank you to everybody that has been in that community and all the mods and everybody that's helping us answer support emails and things like that. Just shout outs to everybody for being so cool, excuse me, and being there and making this all possible so far. All right, we're going to get out of here. You're the best audience in gaming. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself. And goodbye.
Yummy like a gummy bear.